All right. So the reason I wanted to have this conversation with you.
You recording?
You're rolling? You and I are both kind of in the same mindset right now. We are looking for that investment, somewhere to put the money where we're growing wealth, right? Cash flow is going to be included with that, but also growing wealth long term. So this is a quick story on a conversation I just had with a client of mine. They called me and they said, hey, this house just hit the market in the neighborhood next to ours. It's $200,000, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, Cape Cod. Is it a good investment property? So I said, well, I'm gonna have to take a look at it and check it out, but let me ask you a question first. I never answer their question without knowing what their goals are. Is this a good idea? So the first question I asked is like, do you want short-term cash flow? So you want this thing throwing cash off so that you can use it to invest somewhere else or build, or is that what you want? Or do you want long-term wealth? So first question, do you want short-term cash flow or long-term wealth? I'm gonna diagram this out for you, okay? So what they told me, hey, this would be a great house for us to pay cash for, that way we don't have a mortgage payment, all right? So they've got $200,000 cash to deploy. And this house, with a little bit of work, could probably rent for about, let's call it even numbers, call it $1,500.
So they have $200,000, like they want to pay the thing off.
Correct.
Instead of having a loan against it.
Exactly. So that was their idea. I'll show you how it changed their mind a little bit. So $200,000 purchase price, it's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. That's going to equal $1,500 gross revenue per month. All right.
Okay.
So that would be that. You got taxes. Let's just say that your tax bill is going to be $400 a month, and let's say that your insurance is going to be $100 a month, and then so they're gross, or they're netting about $1,000 a month.
Okay.
All right. So, and you correlate that out.
That's without a mortgage payment.
That's no mortgage payment. They have 100% equity in this house.
And the renter's paying the water and electric and internet.
Yep. Yeah, they're passing all those costs through to the renter.
Now I know in commercial, they'll talk about triple net.
Yep.
In residential real estate, is there similar terminology?
Nah, residential, you don't use the terms triple net.
Yeah.
You just say all utilities are paid for by this person.
Okay.
But in commercial, you've got insurance, taxes, and maintenance. You've got all those CAM charges. You got all that kind of over and above what you're paying to occupy the space. So let's say that they pulled the trigger on this thing, okay? They deployed $200,000 in liquid cash into an asset that brings them $12,000 a year, okay? So after expenses are paid, cash on cash.
Which is not good. It's low.
You can invest your money somewhere else and get more. However, you don't have a mortgage payment. So there's no expenses. If you have vacancy, you won't be impacted as much there. So it's one methodology, right? It's one way to invest. So here's how I changed their mind. I said, you mean to tell me you have $200,000 in cash? Yep, got $200,000 in cash. We can use that because they sold some other real estate recently. So I said, let's see if we can think differently here. If you were to put a 20% down payment on $200,000, that's $40,000. That $200,000 could be split 5 times to buy you 5 of these houses.
$1 million in homes.
So you buy 5 times $200,000 worth of real estate. You just put that $200,000 in there, and now you've got $1 million worth of real estate that is under your control. You own it, and you put 200 in there, so you financed 800,000.
And you just got what, 60 grand?
Well,
You're taking 5 times the 12?
Well, yeah. So then, actually, no, because that's with no mortgage payment on it.
Okay.
So the mortgage payment on a $200,000 house with 20% down is about $1,300, including taxes and insurance, right?
Okay.
So your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payment is about, it's $1,293. We're gonna call it $1,300. So of that $1,300, that's gonna include, say, your taxes, your insurance. It's gonna include interest, right? So your interest, let's just say that's $700 a month. And then you got principal reduction, whatever's left there. So 5, 7, 12. Let's say you got $100 worth of principal reduction. There's your $1,300.
In this example, they're making $200 a month profit.
$200 a month cash flow.
Cash flow,
right?
So $2,400 a year.
And then I'm getting $100 a month that comes out in principal reduction. I don't see it, but they're paying down the note, right? They're paying down the note. And then the other thing is I've got real estate property taxes and I've got interest, right? So you still get the mortgage interest deduction. Would you rather have one house appreciate at a market average of 4% per year Or would you rather have 5 houses appreciating at 4% per year?
Oh, yeah,
Again,
course,
you've deployed the same amount of cash.
Because if you look forward in 10 years and that renter has paid your principal down, let's say 20%.
Yep.
And your houses have gone up. That $200,000 house is now worth $240,000.
Yep.
So now you just gained 40 grand times 5. You gained $200,000 in equity. They paid down your principal, $200,000. You just turned your $200,000 investment over 5 to 10 years into $500,000.
Yeah. So with this option, you get more tax write-offs, right? So you're reducing the amount of taxes you're paying. You're building 5 times as much equity because tenants are paying down the principal. So that's why I asked the question to my client, are you in it for short-term cash flow where you're going to make about $1,000 a month? You can put that towards whatever. You can take it to the casino for all I care. It's your money to spend on whatever you want to. Over here, if you don't need the cash money today, you can have tenants buy you $1 million worth of real estate for the same amount of money. So now you've got $1 million in equity in this thing. So what do you want to do with it, right?
From a $200,000 investment.
You put in $200,000, you maintained it, you made sure everything was managed properly, boom, right? So now you've got a $600,000 note and $1 million worth of equity eventually, whenever that gets to. What the heck do you do with that? Well, when I go to sell this property, good old Uncle Sam's going to charge me something called capital gains tax. They're going to charge me, I have to recapture the depreciation. So we roll that back into the thing. And then we put 15 to 20% capital gains tax on over and above whatever I paid for it and what I've got in it. How do we avoid that?
1031.
1031 tax deferred exchange, okay? So what that means is I can take and I can sell my properties. How many did I buy over here?
5.
5. So I've got $1 million in equity that I can use and deploy. How many $200,000 houses will $1 million get me? So $1 million
25
versus a down payment of $40,000.
25.
I can buy 25 houses now, and we're doing the same thing. So we're going to do 25 houses times $200,000, and we're just going to keep rolling it.
But now you're at a place where that passive income coming from there.
Now you can use the passive income to start actually gaining some income. Now then we get into conversations like, okay, when I'm buying these properties, I need to start factoring in maintenance costs, vacancy, management costs, right? So if I'm hiring a property manager, I'm going to be paying them 10%. If I'm factoring in maintenance, 5% maintenance on a $200,000 house, that's like 10 grand a year, 9 grand a year, right? So if I'm spending $9,000 a year on maintenance over 5 years, that's going to be $45,000. It's like, that might be a little aggressive, but it's best to plan for it.
Yeah.
So you're factoring those things in. So there are formulas that we can use where it's the rent on this property is $1,500 a month. Here's all the expenses, right? So expense 1, expense 2, expense 3, management, blah, 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 blah. Boom, we got our formula, which is X. And this formula is derived by whatever parameters you set. What do I want my portfolio to look like? So we factor in all the expenses and everything and say, okay, based on the location, based on the rent, based on all the expenses, the most I'm willing to pay for this 3-bedroom, 1-bath house in this location is $178,723. So I'm gonna make my offer at $169,900, see if they take it. If they don't, I know where my max is. If it's more than my max, that's a game time decision. Do I need to deploy the cash now? Could I buy it now, hold on to it for a year, refinance it later so my expenses are lower? Yeah. Or am I willing to have something in my portfolio that doesn't conform to just perfect numbers, right? What I've learned is that first hit, that first one is the hardest one. Once you've taken that step, then people start taking you seriously. And now you can start talking to lenders who you can kind of compete with. You can get better interest rates. You can start portfolioing your loans. So now instead of putting 20% down on a single family, they'll let you put 15% down and help you leverage that cash more.
I don't know if it's the same here, but in the commercial space, people dump properties more often because they're real estate investment trusts.
Right.
I don't know if that happens here, but like I've seen the commercial, because I found a space one time I saw that before I knew what I know now, and I'm like, it's a CVS.
Yep.
It was a Walgreens. And I'm like, it's got a Walgreens with a 20-year lease why in the hell somebody, I'm looking at it like passive income. Why is somebody getting rid of this? Well, now I know that they had it for 5 years and they wanted to get their money out, 1031 it to the next property.
Yeah, because if you bought a property that was unleased, you leased it up, and now it's producing income,
worth more.
you can sell it at a profit, take that money and keep moving on.
Yeah.
The big, like from a commercial real estate, if we're talking non-residential, we're office, retail, whatever, what concerns me there is you have these bigger periods of vacancy. So you're carrying the note on this thing while you're waiting for somebody to occupy it.
Yep.
There's build out costs if somebody wants you to build out, white box the building with drywall and everything. The beauty of it is you get a stable business in there and you put them in there for 20 years and you got gradual rent increases as you go. Yep. You're keeping up with inflation, keeping up with taxes, insurance, all that stuff, and triple net.
Triple net.
They're paying for all that stuff.
Yeah, what I like about it, when I was thinking about it the other day, I'm like, okay, if I were to, I looked at a strip center. I want a strip center that's not impacted by Amazon. Ooh. Meaning it's sandwich shops, it's a laundromat, it's a pharmaceutical, it's a grocery store. It's stuff that you're not going to buy on Amazon that is going to exist. And then the other avenue, okay, are those items backed by a big brand? You know, a guy that I know bought a strip center that had a Starbucks in it, had this. Well, you know, Starbucks is a pretty stable national tenant. And you can't get your coffee off of Amazon yet.
Right.
Who knows? I heard it stated the other day, the guy said the top example is the Dave Ramsey model.
Yeah.
The bottom example is looking at it from an investment standpoint that let the banks, 800 grand, do the heavy lifting. Because if you look at that equation, you take 200 grand and buy $1 million in real estate, the biggest investor in the deal is the bank.
Yeah.
And so their $800,000 is what enables you to grow to 1.6.
So if you're smart enough, just like you're saying there, they say the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. Well, what do we put at risk here?
200.
What do we put at risk here?
200.
You have pretty much the same cash deployed, except for you're building a bigger machine. And that machine is called all of the other things other than just cash flow that you could get. If you can delay the gratification, you're going to get way more return in the long term. So.
Awesome. Well, this is the first step. Hopefully many more of these conversations as we see properties.
I want to do some property tours with commercial properties.
We're going to
some stuff, and yeah, we'll kind of look at it. We'll evaluate the numbers and kind of share, like, is this a good investment? At what price is it a good investment? And that sort of thing. So
cool.
Good talk.
Thank you.